Hello, good night. This is U.S. Immigration Attorney Sharifa Tharp. I'm here live to take your U.S. immigration related questions. Put those questions in the comments now, and I will jump on them. No, but I have a good topic for you today, and this has to do with VAWA. So if you are in the middle of your green card process or petition process with a relative, a U.S. citizen or permanent resident spouse, a parent, or a citizen adult child, and they're mistreating you or they're threatening to cancel your process while mistreating you, then you can switch processes. So a lot of people think that once they start a family-based or a marriage-based process, that there's no way that they're able to change their minds and take control of the process through VAWA. They think it's too late to apply for VAWA. And this is the exact reason why VAWA is in place. So that if you do find yourself in a situation where you're being mistreated by a US citizen or permanent resident relative, you can switch to this process confidentially. So we have done this for our clients and we have succeeded. We've gotten approvals, but there is a specific way to do this in order to ensure that you can make a smooth transition. And so I want to talk to you about that to help you to understand how this can be done so you can go and get the help you need ASAP. You can always give us a call. The number is if you, at the top of the screen, you'll see under my name as host, you'll see the phone number. Call that number and we will answer. And then usually bookings are from 8 a.m. in the morning back to 9 p.m. at night. So you can call. We always answer the phone and then we get to work with helping to schedule for the strategy session where we confirm you qualify, we come up with a case strategy, and then we hit the ground running. So now here's the specific way you have to approach this, right? So if you're in the middle of, I'll tell you the exact scenarios where we have successfully gotten our clients a green card, even though they had a rocky start to the green card process. So for example, we had a client, he called us distraught because he was in a marriage with a US citizen and they had called finally after about 2 years of waiting. They finally called him and his spouse in for an interview. However, at the time, the spouse was abusing him. So abusing him verbally, emotionally, and financially. And in this case, at the point where the interview was scheduled and he wanted to make sure that they could finally finish the process and he could move forward with his life, she started to threaten him and say she's not going unless he has supplied her with computers for her kids, his stepkids. And he was more than happy to supply computers to his stepkids when it was appropriate, but it was totally within his power to say no. And he did say no because he couldn't afford it. And she retaliated against him by saying, okay, well, I'm not going to the interview. And by the way, this is about the second or third incident in their marriage where she would make threats like this. And at that point, he just had it. He knew that he was in trouble because if they did not attend the interview together, the immigration officer would not want to hear a sob story. They are going to terminate the interview and deny the application. But my client was smart and he sought counsel, and we were able to then rectify the situation. So at that point, we went ahead. He already had a work permit based on an I-485. He already had his travel document. And so what we had to do was transfer his I-485 to a newly filed VAWA and then request from the office. So the same office that was requesting the interview, that sent the interview notice, we sent a letter and it's called an abeyance letter to request that the I-485 now be joined with the VAWA petition and continue to be in process, continue to remain open without a decision until the VAWA is decided. So we quickly did that. This at this point is urgent, very urgent, because if that interview date comes and you are unable to show up at the interview, they will then deny the green card. And so by acting quickly before the interview, we were able to, the office was able to just simply transfer it over to the newly filed VAWA application petition, and our client continued to have his benefits while he waited for them to make a decision on his VAWA petition. Well, our client is now, fast forward 2 years in, our client became a green card holder. And so he has been a green card holder. And here's the extra plus. In 3 years after getting the green card, he can apply for US citizenship because the spouse who mistreated him was a US citizen. So this is an example of how you can take control of your process, move forward, and this entire process was completely confidential. So even though we made the switch, his, during the separation, during the process of separating from the spouse, she had no idea that this was in place because it is a part of the law that it not be communicated to the abusive spouse or the spouse that's mistreating you, the immigrant spouse. So guys, make sure I'm telling you this because a lot of people think, oh my gosh, the spouse isn't going to help me. I have no hope. There is still hope. There's more than hope. There's action that you can take. And we've done that for our clients and it has been good. And that's because the clients took the action they needed to get the help. So you can give the office a call. If you can relate to this, give the office a call and schedule time for us to talk through your situation, come up with case strategy, and then hit the ground running, get started right away. This is what we do, and we're good at it. And we're more than happy to put you in a position of empowerment in your process. All right, so that's what I have to talk to you about now, switching from VAWA to another type of process. Now I'm seeing questions coming in, so I'm going to answer these questions. And already we have 825 likes on TikTok. Thank you so much. And I'm on a special app on Instagram, so I'm not sure. Sometimes I see loves there, but as always, thanks for joining the live. That alone provides visibility for others to see the information here. All right, so let me answer some questions. How long does it take for a green card parents petition for unmarried children over 21? It's going to take a number of years. It can take over 7 years. I turned 18 in 2014, and at 18, I got DACA. If I were to self-departure, will I get a 10-year ban? Yes. Yeah. So once you leave the country without a travel document or advance parole, yes. Have you seen any F2A approvals recently from the USCIS? So the F2A category is now, I'm pretty sure there are approvals going through. If you want to figure out what the processing time is that you could expect, you can go look at the I-130 petition, or you can look at the I-485 processing times on USCIS. After prima facie approval, how long ID and EAD takes? If all applied at the same time, go to uscis.gov, go look up the form name, so the EAD form name, you'll see the processing time to expect there. How long does it take for, okay, to answer that. If I had a work permit and it expired, what can I do? So you'd have to renew your work permit So we have to take a look to see what's going on, but you'd have to renew the work permit. Um, when you married a USA citizen, when you can apply for a green card, you can apply right away. So there's nothing that says you can't apply right away. Um, but here's what I always say when the question comes, I got married to a US citizen, when can we apply? It really is about what kind of evidence do you have to show your bona fide marriage. I've heard so many times people will say, I am ready to apply. I have my marriage certificate and I have some pictures. And here's what's happening. When you submit your marriage certificate and your pictures alone, you're actually creating a red flag for yourself. So you're actually red flagging your application to be investigated further, right? And to be scrutinized. And that's because that's not enough evidence. So keep in mind, the marriage certificate shows you're legally married. But nowadays, any two people can go and get a marriage certificate, go and get married. Any two people can do that. What they want to see is that this marriage is meaningful, that you actually are meaning to build a life together. And to do that, you have to show more than just a marriage certificate. You have to show joint financial obligations. You show that you reside together or that you plan to reside together, joint property, intentions to look out for the other spouse. So, estate planning documents, emergency contact records for your employment or medical centers. If you even do things like you have joint membership at certain clubs or in the gym, that is also helpful. Then you can stack on top of that. You can stack pictures, together at different events, times, locations with different people, close friends and family, and just make sure because one piece of feedback we're getting is the photos need to be described. So you have to describe context. So on the back of the photos or on the side of the photos, make sure you're describing who is in the photo, what's going on in the photo, date, time, place, because that can give the officer context. But pictures is just the icing on the cake. It's not going to give you an approval. So I say this, I list all of this evidence and I emphasize the evidence because that goes to say, do you have all of this? Do you have all of this to show that you can, to show a bona fide marriage? If you do, then you can apply the day after you got married, right? I always use the example of my clients. They were engaged. They sought guidance on how to approach this. Once and we prepared everything. Once they got married, we just got the marriage certificate and the next day we filed it. Why was it so easy? Because they had a history, they had 2 years of living together with joint lease, joint bank account. They had significant savings in their bank account as a couple. They had various pictures showing friends and family. They had a big wedding and they had all this family at the wedding. Obviously, everybody was there, happy for them. And in that case, it was really easy to then file shortly after they actually made it official and got married. So, yes, you can apply right away, but you need to make sure you're submitting solid, strong evidence. Hi there, Beverly on YouTube. Hi there, Jude. Nice to see you. And thanks for joining me. When you married to a US citizen, okay, so I answered that in a lot of detail. I send my medical 1 year, all from VAWA approved, 1.5 years. Why is it taking so long? Yes, I know it's frustrating and it can be for a number of reasons. But if you're within the processing time, unfortunately, it's a quite a wait. But what I guess To figure out why it's taking so long, you need to talk to your attorney to figure that out. It could be a number of reasons. So you need to just look at the details there with your attorney. All right, I'm on Instagram now. If someone was banned from USA for no just reason and the person is now married to an American citizen, can he be brought into the country? So this is where you definitely need to talk to us because we need to understand what the circumstances were. Sometimes you may think it was for no reason, and then we are able to identify the specific reasons. So sometimes when one is trying to enter the country, they're turned around at the airport, and they're basically through expedited removal, then there's usually a 5-year bar. If they find fraud or misrepresentation, that can be a lifetime bar. If they are trying to enter the US and they don't have the right documentation, that can also lead to them being turned around and possibly facing expedited removal, so the 5-year ban. Did they have a criminal record? I mean, I know you said for no just reason, but this is just an example of what we need to explore the specific facts to determine what happened. And it's possible to bring your spouse back through a waiver, but we need to understand, is whatever he was banned for, is it waivable? If it's waivable, then we can move forward with a waiver. Now, it's usually a long process because what happens is the spouse still has to go through the entire process, go to the interview, and then at the interview, the officer will tell them that they have to apply for a waiver. And then they're given the option to hand in a waiver. So, are you available by WhatsApp? Not at this time. You'd have to give the office a call. If you look at the bottom of the screen, you'll see the ticker going across. It has the phone number. Go ahead and call that phone number. If my spouse gets food stamped benefit from the government, would pose any concern if she has to file for me? Great question. Now, they did change the public charge rule in March. And when they did that, it gave officers broad discretion to decide whether, based on certain circumstances in the immigrant's background, whether they will face an increased risk of being a public charge. Now, this scrutiny, so they're usually looking at things like age, education, household size, whether there's any debt, employment history. They're going to look at factors like that. Of course, history of taking public benefits as well, current income. Now, they look at the immigrants, these circumstances of the immigrant's life, not usually the US citizen who's petitioning. However, if the spouse has a history of food stamps and somehow that comes out, because they don't ask these questions on the application about the US citizen spouse, they're asking it about the immigrant. But if somehow it does come to light to the officer that the spouse is dependent on food stamps, they may scrutinize the affidavit of support more closely to ensure that everything matches up for the U.S. citizen spouse to sponsor and support their immigrant spouse. So it does, the change in the public charge rule does give the officer broad discretion to query different facts and circumstances. And so I can see where that may raise questions. Is it safe to continue with U.S. Army registration if you're out of status when you receive an application form offer? So I am not an expert at U.S. military eligibility, so I don't want to make any assumptions here. However, um, I do believe that the military requires you to have legal status. Um, so what you should do is possibly, and this is where I don't want to suggest you do anything, because I'm not your attorney. So this is where, if you really want to figure out how to approach it, a hotline, and ask them if what is the criteria, what's the criteria to register for the military, and if you're not one of those, then you can't register, right? So it's just basically to find out what are the eligibility criteria for the military, and look to see if you fit within one of those. But being out of status, definitely is problematic, maybe problematic, but I don't want to say for sure, because I'm not a military attorney. I am an immigration attorney. So that's where you need to, contact them, or look closely at the eligibility criteria, and just make sure before you take any action that you personally talk with an attorney, so that you understand your rights, you don't take any unnecessary risks. Because keep in mind, guys, that they are checking people's statuses on military bases, right? They have detained relatives and spouses of military members who were out of status, who are here on overstays, or who cross the border without permission. So if that's the case, and you're in that situation and trying to join the military, it's, it kind of tells you it's probably not going to happen. Can we file a lawsuit to issue BFD, EAD for T visa? It's been more than 12 months now, just receipts and biometrics. So you can always bring actions before a federal court to review whether, whether there's some unreasonable delay here. So that's a possibility, but I would say it's on a case by case basis. Whether you want to opt to bring an action, and whether it's justified, that's a conversation that you'd have to have with your attorney about that action. But yes, it is a possibility. Bringing an action for unreasonable delay is a practice in immigration law. I did my biometrics in January this year. My VAWA has been filed for 3 years and 7 months now. My work permit hasn't been renewed and nothing received. I am nervous. Yes. So, processing times are getting longer. If you're outside of case processing times, then you can submit as inquiry to try to nudge them along. So my sister-in-law, whose brother filed her green card for her and siblings, just passed. Will this affect anything? I'm so sorry. But yes, it's likely to affect the process, because if the petition was not approved, or didn't reach a certain stage in the process, then that petition becomes invalid with the death of the petitioner. But always speak to an immigration attorney, because I don't know all the facts and circumstances. So make sure you speak with an attorney. The office phone number, if you look at the screen, look at the bottom of the screen, you'll see the ticker going at the bottom of it. You'll see the phone number there. So just take down that phone number. Give us a call any time of day. We're open 24 hours a day for calls, and we'll help you get scheduled. All right, so I was just on YouTube, Facebook. Now let's see, any more questions on Instagram? Can someone on green card file for someone or not? If yes, then how long can it take? Or if the person is here, can they get work permit if their spouse is a green card holder? So spouses of green card holders, if you're here, you have the priority date is current. You're here on a current visa status or a current status. You can apply for adjustment of status right now. So it's a good time to apply. We don't know how long this priority date is going to become current. So jump on it. First, get advice. You can always meet with us. My schedule is filling up, guys, but talk to us, meet me, and let's go over what your eligibility criteria. But you have to act fast because my schedule is filling up. But in that case, spouses of permanent residents can file, and when they file, they get the work permit and the travel document. But this may be limited. We don't know how long this is going to last. The last time, I would say the last time we saw the priority date current was during the Trump administration, and it did last a while, but things change very quickly. And so we don't know how long this is going to last. We never know. So jump on it. All right, I'm on TikTok. Thanks for sharing the live. So I have my USCIS interview in 2 days. What to expect in that interview and how long will it take? All right, so I would have to know what kind of interview. Let's assume this is a marriage-based interview. You can correct me if I'm wrong. So, when you go into the interview, and make sure you're talking to your attorney, because your attorney is going to be the one that knows all the intricate details of your case and can prepare you for specific questions, just depending on what's in your application. But generally speaking, you're gonna check in, similar to going through like the airport security line. You're gonna wait. The officer either calls you by name or number, and you go into their office. So it's usually a small office, private office. And the officer asks you to swear yourself in, to raise your right hand, swear to tell the truth. And then the officer will start to basically ask questions. So they may jump into questions by first verifying certain biographical information on your applications, the I-485 usually, and then they may jump into questions about your marriage. So you have to be prepared for two things to come up. Either one, they separate you from the get-go, or they interview with the both of you there. Now, they are going to ask questions like, how did you meet? When did you meet? What's your daily routine together? Who does what in the morning? Who wakes up first? What side of the bed do you sleep in? What does the living room look like? They're going to ask these, and they're going to ask one person. So they're going to look directly at the person they're asking and ask them to answer the questions. And then they usually go through the long list of yes or no questions on the I-485 that indicates inadmissibility. If in most cases, if you say yes, they may ask about your history. So if you've had a history of overstay, you've had a history of past visa denials, they may scrutinize those. So I noticed in the latest interviews I've gone into, they have focused more on that, working without a permit, questions about past and overstay. Why did you overstay? Now, I just want to stop there for a minute though, because there's this unnecessary thing that happens sometimes where people don't understand that the spouses of U.S. citizens are not held, they're given a pass if they've worked here without a permit or if they've overstayed. However, some people, they don't know that. They don't know there's an exception for spouses of US citizens. And so they go in and they may say, no, they've never worked without a permit. And in a case like that, if you say that and the officer finds otherwise, they can accuse you of fraud. And that's just all so unnecessary. So I just wanted to stop there to caution you about just telling the truth as it is. And if you have to tell the truth about something, talk to your attorney about what can you expect. Are there any consequences to telling the truth? Because you have to tell the truth. So just keep that in mind. And then the officer will, at the end of the interview, the officer will then, tell you what to expect. The officer will either say they're recommending approval, they're just going to send it up to their supervisor to confirm their approval, or they're going to tell you that your application is under review, and they will be in touch to let you know what the decision is. It's important when you're going to the interview, you have it in 2 days. Make sure when I go to interviews with my clients, I make sure I have exact copy of what I submitted. I have the exact replica of everything that we submitted, so that I can be prepared and the clients can be prepared for any questions about anything in the application. Sometimes it's helpful because maybe somewhere along the line, the officer lost some of the papers or misplaced somewhere, and you can easily pull out of the copy we have to be able to give the officer so they can supplement the application. So just make sure that you have copies of that. Carry additional evidence of bona fide marriage, updated bank statements, updated any kind of new bills that you have together, any new property, anything new that shows that you have a real marriage. Tax filings, for example, would be something new that you may be doing after April 15th. So you have that. Just in case they want additional evidence of the bona fides of the marriage. And then that in a nutshell is what to expect at the interview. So it's a lot, but another thing is prepare beforehand. Don't go in there, don't go into that interview just assuming it's going to be so easy. Make sure you're looking at sample questions, that you're really making sure you don't have to practice word for word what you're going to say, because that can backfire on you. But just have an idea of what your answers will be. And it's a good way to touch base with your spouse, because yes, you may be together. You and your spouse may be together for a while. You may know each other, but you'd be surprised what you remember versus what your spouse remembers. So it's a good time to touch base on those questions, just to make sure that the both of you are on the same page regarding when you met. Because you may have started taking the relationship seriously at one point, and if the question is, for example, when did you guys start dating, or when did you start to take things seriously, you may have a different date in mind than your spouse. So you want to just make sure you're identifying that before the interview. Pictures. If you have pictures, put those in an album and make sure you have context for each. Make sure you're putting different pictures, not just all wedding photos. That's a red flag. A mix. Your wedding photos, engagement photos, pictures with friends and family during holidays, different events, different seasons, different people. Have all of that in an album, a little album that you can take with you. All right. So that in a nutshell is I basically gave you a ton of information about the interview. If you want to get sample interview questions, you can always go to the link in the profile and you'll see the link tree, and then scroll down on link tree, and I believe I have sample interview questions there as well that you can pick up. All right. Can I still file my I-485 for marriage application even if I have asylum that is closed? See your attorney, but yes, that's a possibility. It's a possibility. I got banned yesterday because they're claiming I worked on my visa. Can I get a waiver to come back? So there's possibility to get waivers to return on a non-immigrant visa. So yes, there's an I-192 waiver, or what they call the D3 waiver that allows one to return if they're forgiven for the violation. How long is for naturalization for 10 years green card holders? So if you go to the uscis.gov website, you'll see the case processing time for naturalization, um, for which is citizenship. So you can look there, but it ranges from anywhere from 3 months to over a year for the citizenship process. I did my fingerprints for EAD. So how long to get approved? Go to uscis.gov. You'll see the range of time that work permits are taking right now. I-485 got denied while overseas. Can I re-enter the US with my valid advance parole? I'm so sorry. And this is definitely one of the risks of traveling while you have a pending processes. If you're outside of the country and you do have a denied benefit, it means that your work permit and your travel document can become invalid. This is definitely a conversation you're going to have with your attorney, or you need to call an attorney ASAP. My kids and hubby are US citizens, and I was denied a visa last year to take them for a visit. I'm sorry. So with the visa, whenever it comes to visitors visas, it really is related to what, do you have stronger ties in your home country than the ties that you have in the US? So the fact that you have children and your hubby are US citizens may have overridden any kind of strong ties you have to your country. If your I-130 adjustment status is approved, do I need an interview for the green card? So if the I-130 petition is approved, you may still need an adjustment of status application interview. So they may approve the I-130, but then still have the AOS. How long is the naturalization to answer that? How long after priority date becomes current do green card interviews take place? F1 adult unmarried. So once you file, it means that you have permission to be here to get the work permit while you wait for the interview. There's no set timeline though for when interview will be scheduled. It could be anywhere from 3 months to even a year later. What should one do when you don't receive your EAD card in the mail after 40 days approval? So contact the USCIS, determine whether they did issue an EAD card. It might be on the USCIS side that they've delayed it. Sometimes it's to put in an inquiry and see if we can get it pushed through. If it was sent and got lost, then you'd have to apply for a replacement. Can someone on green card file for some? Okay, so I answered that. All right, so I'm going to take the last few questions and then head out for the night. Can a PR file for child over 21? That is here on F1 student visa and the child not leave the USA. A permanent resident can file a petition for an adult son or daughter who's over 21 and unmarried. Yes, it's possible, but there's still the question. Keep in mind, if it's the priority date is not current, so that is a different category. So we have F2A and then we have F2B. And F2B is on a different processing timeline, and the priority date is not current for them. So it may take over 7 years to get to that point. So if your child can have their visa for those number of years, then yes, it's a possibility to adjust status here in the U.S. But the petition is not going to somehow fast track the green card process. I have a 10-year green card. Is it safe to travel to Miami from Omaha, Nebraska? So it's just green card holders can travel. That's one of the privileges of having the green card. However, nowadays you have to also evaluate your individual risk. And so this question here is not really revealing anything about your background, anything that would present additional risk. So that is where you really need to you need to talk to your attorney or an attorney about the risk that you face, if there's any risk. I was on filing and stopped it for a while, then my wife passed away. Can my mom still file for me? Yes, so you would fall within the category now of, first of all, I'm sorry for your wife's passing. But it also means that you would no longer be the married person of a U.S. citizen. You would be placed back in the unmarried category. After adjustment of status in biometrics, what's next? How long is the wait? So the EAD is next, and go to uscis.gov to look at case processing times for the EAD. Any word on the freeze on 75 countries? Unfortunately, nothing. We haven't heard anything like it's been lifted. So unfortunately, that's the case. But guys, keep filing your applications. Okay, so I-730 asylum refugees visa issue from 75 pause countries. The pause is only on immigrant visas, so not on any kind of visas that are given to asylees or refugees. This is for immigrant visas. So immigrant visa is when you file the I-130 petition, they send it to the embassy when it's approved, and then the embassy would evaluate whether you can get a special visa to travel to the United States and become a green card holder. Hi there, Sasha. It's nice to see you. All right, that's going to be it for me. Thanks, guys, for your time. I will be back hopefully tomorrow. Thanks for the love. We have 7,000 likes. Thanks so much, because that means that people are seeing this live and they're seeing information that can empower them. Join me, ask your questions. That's why I'm here. But most of all, take action towards your personal goals in immigration. Sitting on and listening to me is helpful, I'm sure, but it's not going to get you to where you need to be. You can always call, schedule some time with me to talk, and make sure that you're acting on this very quickly because my schedule is filling up. So I want to talk to you, help you. We're working to help as many people as possible. So get in touch with us and get your dreams rolling. Let's start with that strategy first. All right. Have a good night, everybody. Thanks for all your questions. Bye bye.